What is up? I'm Oxydads and Oxydadettes. Oxidize here, bringing you the top 10. Oh, okay, I don't want to say top 10. 10 tips and tricks that I wish I knew at the very beginning of Albion Online and my Albion Online experience, and Albion Online career that would have benefited me right off the bat. I think these tips will help you. And what I want to do, a favor from you guys, is a couple of things. One, comment on one of these tips. In the comments, leave something like, hey, I want to hear more about this tip. I want to see a video about this tip. I would love to hear that, guys, and I would love to go into more details on a specific tip if it sees enough support in the comments. Secondly, show me some support on this video and I will bring you a second part to this, a second top 10, or again, not top, it's another 10 facts or 10 tips. 10, I don't really know what I'm trying to say. 10 tips or tricks, there we go, that will benefit newer players. So guys, enjoy the video and let's get into it. Yes, factioning is something that's it's a pretty cool way to earn a little bit of money and a little bit of riskiness along in your life, you know what I mean? So basically, here's what happens. You can come to it, so any city in this game, Fort Sterling, Thetford, Bridgewatch, Limhurst, Smartlock, they all have a faction, and the faction, which is, it's gonna look like this guy on the map here. If you press N, gonna be this little like faction enlistment, this little flag thing. You click on here, click on him, and press accept. You'll get into a faction. I'm not gonna do that. Let me tell you why. So when you faction up, you give your little sweet temple of a body to the world, and anyone can now attack you who's also enlisted onto another faction. You think, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Listen, they can get you in any zone. If you're factioned up, yellow or blue, it is full loot PvP, and they can kill you, and you can lose everything. Okay, so as a new player, I highly recommend that you do not faction up. But if you are curious why you should, or why you would want to faction up eventually, or even if you want to try it early on, let me tell you. So when you start the faction up, anytime you gain fame, like PvE, combat, gathering, fishing, you will get these points, as well as get a better standing within the faction. These points will let you buy vine hearts, these crests, and then whatever the factions mount, you can get the baby for that. And then you can also do these quests or these missions that will have you transporting these I believe all they do is that they make you transport whatever your city resources to another city and get like a lot of bonus. I believe this is bonus money, bonus fame, bonus faction standing. However, also I think all the city resources, which is like these vine hearts, or every city has their own, goes for about 60k a pop. So, and they're only 3,000, and I had 36,000 earlier, and I haven't factioned for that long. So it's free money if you do it. But the risk factor, it's there, brother. The risk factor is there, and you gotta be careful. Banks and marketplaces not being connected is a big doozy, but it can work in your favor, and it's a little annoying. So when I first started playing, I was putting loot everywhere to Fort Sterling. I was like, cool, I can do all this, and then I realized other cities existed that I can choose where to kind of make my main city. And the importance of making a main city is that you can build up your bank as such, with like all these runes, all the loot you get, all the gatherings, etc., from all your travels. And that's great, right? And it's good to have a single city where you can like a home base, basically. And the reason you want that is because the banks aren't connected. Same for the marketplaces. So I'm just showing you here. What I mean by marketplaces is that you can sell stuff here, right? So you see, I have all the stuff sold here. I can even look up something like cloth tier 7, and it goes for 9.2k at the very, very cheapest. Now, if I were to go to a different city, which I'll show you here in a second, if we just mosey my way on down to the creek, right over here. I go to, let's say we go to Martlock here, 6K journey. That's cheap. You go ahead over to, you go to Martlock here. Bonus tip, if you want to travel for free, have nothing in your inventory, it's based off weight, so you can take out if you take off your mount and nothing else on you, you can travel for free to all these places. Anyway, so but if you were to go to the bank here, I can go here, take a look at my old bank, and remember you saw all that stuff. Yeah, all I have is mutton stew, which I can actually take with me. I don't know why that's sitting in there. I got no, this is my my Hellgate one over here. And then if you go to the marketplace, and then you'll realize, I already forgot how much the other one was, but it's going to be completely different here. I think it was 9.2. Yeah, this is 10.8K. So if you see what I mean, you could go and buy that cloth in Thetford, travel using an ox. Don't use the fast travel like the actual map. Right, so if Thetford's here and you stay in the blue and yellow zones, you're not in any danger of getting hurt whatsoever, and you come sell it here, you can sell for a pretty good increase in price. Highly recommend it. It's something that I do, and there's a bit, and that's the huge benefit to not having connected markets, but it's a downside of not having connected banks. But then again, if there was connected banks, everyone would do it, and etc. Okay, this is a very big brain tip for you right here. When choosing your equipment to go out on some kind of adventure or embark on some kind of quest, it's up to you of how much money you want to spend. If you're going to a full PvP zone, you might not want to go to the best gear, or you might want to kind of strategize of what kind of money or what kind of places you want to spend more on your build, and places where you have to spend less in order to kind of make yourself more efficient. And something you look at is the item power of a weapon or a piece of armor can influence the way you compare items and decide on buying items. Let me give you an example of what I'm trying to say, because I don't think I'm explaining it very well. So let's say I want to go into a tier 8 dungeon and I need something that hits pretty hard. I want this tier 7 carving sword. All right, tier 7 carving sword, the 1125 item power, which it doesn't really matter what the item power means by itself. You have to use it as a comparing tool to choose what weapon you would want or what piece of gear you would want over the other one. And the best way to compare this is if you look at the Fearless Strike, dash towards a location and strike all enemies on your way, dealing 521 damage to each enemy. Okay, and at 3 charges, the enemy reduces their resistances by 72 for 6 seconds. All right, so let's say I do want this, but man, I do not want to spend 350,000 smackaroonies on this. Tier 6. You realize, tier 6 it's cheaper, but I'm losing 50 damage on each enemy. I'm losing 2 resistances. It's really not that bad. Or tier 6.1, 250,000 silver, and it's identical, almost identical to tier 7. The item power is a little bit higher, but we're doing 72 enemy resistances are being reduced for 6 seconds, and it's dealing 521 damage to each enemy. And you'll see that across the board that it's the exact same as tier 7 with an item power of 1132. Or if we were to go back to the tier 7 no enchantment, item power of 1125, and it's 350, it's almost 100,000 more silver than tier 6.1. This is a huge high testosterone play that I learned just playing the game and someone telling me. But I use this trick or tip all the time, and I think you will too, brother. Yes, so maybe you want a way of easy, cheap silver early in the game that doesn't really cost you anything except for a build of some sort, and a build that you won't lose the build, you won't lose the items doing all this stuff, but you would have to have some kind of prep work if I had to say something about it. But it's free money basically, and you can do this once a day. And in any city, you go to this little portal thing here, the Expedition Bastion, and you click on this, and then you can do these expeditions tier 3, 4, and 5, and you can do group expeditions. And this is hardcore expeditions, which you can't do unless you have some other options, and we'll just not worry about that right now. But in the group expeditions, you can queue up, and it will just throw you into a group And you don't have to worry about really communicating or any of that, because it's not really super hardcore. But you can go in as a tank. Let me see. Yeah, as like a tank role, healer role, or offensive role. And the tier, or these tier 4, 5, and 6 group dungeons will give you more benefits because they're a little bit more difficult, need to group form. But the whole idea of doing this once a day is that you actually get these things called royal sigils, and depending on who you talk to, they'll tell you to maybe keep them to make armor, and sure, you can do that, and I think keeping them in the long run will make you more money down the road. Or you can sell the royal sigil, and I think it goes for 20, 30, 5-figure silver amount if you sell the expert royal sigils. So I highly recommend doing this and just getting you that quick burst of silver right when you get on every day, and until you are in a place where you can start keeping these, and then you can maybe make the you can make the armor that these are used for later on in the road. But what I was saying about the build, you have to have at least an item power of 650 or higher to do the tier 5, 350 for tier 4, and 250 for tier 3. Tier 3 you should be able to do pretty much right out the gate, as long as you have some kind of build or some kind of equipment on you. This shouldn't be an issue. And then as you progress, you'll get more and more, and as you can see, the reward increases. Tier 3 you don't even get a sigil, tier 4 you get a adept, and then tier 5 you get the royal, and then up to tier 6 here you'll end up even getting the masters. So it's a pretty big deal. Highly recommend doing that. Also on your dailies, press this button here and go to arena, and you can solo queue or group queue if you have some friends you want to go into, or your guild. You can solo queue the arena again as either fighter or supporter or healer. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I had a crawfish boil today, and man, it's all kind of just digesting and gurgling. And every time you win, you get you get these rewards, and you get 3 wins a day. And these rewards are expensive. The tomes of insights are huge for combat, which I'll get into probably the next tip actually. And you get bags of silver. So arena battles are 5v5 combat. You don't risk any equipment loss, you don't risk anything. If you lose, you get to just sign up again for no money. The only caution I have with this is that when you sign up, the queue times can be very long, and the 5v5 arenas, they're fun, but you can be like, it's up to you. This is stuff you don't even have to do. I barely even do these, just because like they're not, I don't want to say a waste of time, but they're kind of a waste of time once you get built up enough where you don't really need the money from this. There's better things you can do with your time, but early on, highly recommend doing it. Once you have 700 item power, why not sign up and do what you can do? You know what I mean? I know for a fact that you have seen these when you've been doing solo gathering or solo combat in those random green gash dungeons. Gash does not sound like a great word to use there, but anyway, yeah, in those dungeons you might see these things drop every once in a while, these tomes of insights. And basically what they are is that when you use them, you get 10,000 combat fame for everything that you're wearing, your weapon, your equipment, etc., etc. And the importance of these is that it's a way to convert your silver into combat fame. So what a lot of people will do is get a lot of money, buy a whole bunch of these, and they can go and they'll only wield like a broadsword, and they'll get that broadsword from 1 to 100. And I'm not sure what the cost is. It takes a lot of these, but they're extremely useful. Or let's say you're sitting somewhere like, or for instance, I just got to 100 swords not too long ago. I was at 99. I had like a little bit to go. So what I did, I was like, I could spend another maybe hour grinding this out, or I could spend 300,000 silver, buy 10 tomes, and boom, I'm a sword fighter. I'm good to go. Easy money. So, and to me, this is a really good tip to tell new players, is because one, you might not be buying these tomes. However, let's say the fame isn't important to you at the moment. It should be. I'm not saying that you should sell these, but you can sell each one of these for 30,000 silver. Okay, but you can only sell the tier 4 ones, I believe. I don't think there's any other ones we can sell. I'm almost certain that, but I want to double check and not tell you a lie. I believe you can only sell the tier 4 ones that you pick up. The rest you have to use. Oh no. But it's a very useful thing. It's a very useful tool, very useful bit of insight that can progress your character in either fame or silver, how you like. I just realized we're about to spend a lot of time at the marketplace here. So next is food. Something that I didn't do early on just because I didn't think about it and I didn't think it was that important is food. Food is huge for things like PvP, PvE, gathering, and I'm just gonna talk over it briefly. I'm not gonna go into details. This is something in the comments, and more people want to see some of these tips more fleshed out. I can do that. But let's take a look real quick. So if I were to go to okay. Let's say you want to do a solo dungeon and you want the most optimal way of doing this. There's a couple things you can do, but one of the most important things to do is to grab some tunas. Tunas are cheap, 2,000 a tuna. It's not that bad. And for 30 minutes, you get health regeneration increased by 225%. I need to say that this is only out of combat, not during combat. So during combat, you're on your own. But as soon as you're out of combat, you will see your health go whoop, and it's extremely useful. So normally what I would do, I would buy like, buy bulk, like buy 20 of these, put them in my bank. I would take 3 and put them on my person. It gives me an hour and a half of solo dungeon grinding until I have to go back. And by that time, I'll probably have too much gear anyway that I can't hold because I'm so good at it that I have to bring it back to the bank anyways and then get the restock basically. But you'll notice once you start using this small tip and trick that you will in fact increase your combat, your dungeon clearing speed. So I highly recommend doing that. And then another quick tip I want to tell you is that for gathering, you should be using these pies. Most importantly, I think pork pies are a really good one to use. It's a little bit more expensive. However, it gives you the gathering yield of 15% increase. So not every single time you'll see that gathering yield work. It's only 15% chance really. But every once in a while you'll see like an extra yield of like fiber or wood or whatever you're gathering when you use this, and your load capacity is increased by 30%, which allows you not to have to use an ox when you do your gathering. Instead, if you want to use a horse, which I recommend you do, you can use a horse for your gathering, which will make you get to cluster faster. And then the last one I know really well as well is stews. So if you want to get into more PvP, dungeon diving, ganking, hellgates, I believe most people are going to tell you to have some kind of stew on you. Tier 6, tier 7, tier 8. It's up to you how much you want to spend. I do tier 6 all the time. I don't know why I don't do tier 7 or tier 8. But either way, the stew increases, it's just a flat damage increase for 30 minutes. Inside of combat, outside combat, it doesn't matter. Once you take it, you have a 10% damage increase with the tier 6 stew for 30 minutes. So what I'll normally do is if I'm going to go on like a dungeon diving or a ganking session, I'll take like 2 of these with me. And as soon as I see my first target, I eat one. That way I'm not wasting it just looking for somebody, and then go to town. These can be a little bit wasteful because it just depends on what you're doing. If you're doing like ganking and PvP, you might use this to only get 1 gank or only get 2 ganks, but it makes a huge difference, and I highly recommend you look into it when you do something naughty like that. Okay, I got 2 more things we're gonna look at the marketplace. It's really the items in the marketplace, but I think this is the best way just to present this to you. I could do some B-roll and do all of that, but that's not my style. The next thing I want to show you is dungeon maps. So let's take a look at these real quick. So dungeon maps are pretty cool. So the dungeon map, let's say, okay, we can do tier 4. Honestly, I think a lot more people do tier 5, but tier 5s are really expensive right now for, I'm not really sure why, to be honest with you. But tier 5 solo dungeon maps, you also see group dungeon maps. So what are these? So let me tell you here. Used to reveal a hidden entrance. The map is consumed in the process. The search might fail if you're too far from a zone of the same tier as map. If you were to use this and you were nowhere near a tier 5 zone, which means like right here, like all right, Lootsome Hill's a tier 5. This is a tier 5. Up in the black zone, you have tier 5s as well. So you could use these in the black zone dungeons, which is, even more beneficial if you're trying to fame farm here. But the idea is this, let's read this here. Enemies in the dungeon will be 16% stronger than normal, and rewards are also increased by 16%. That means they're either 16% better in quality or quantity, or even in both. It's good to use these. I don't recommend using these super early on, but it's something that will do a couple of things for you. One, it will guarantee you a dungeon when you get to a zone, right? Whenever you pop it, it'll show up a dungeon into your map, which I will probably show here in a second. It'll pop up a little thing on the map, and it's your dungeon. No one else can see it until you go into it. But once you're into it, other players will be able to get into it as well. So, you know, you have to worry about being ganked and, you know, dungeon dove in like red and black zone. So it doesn't protect you from that. However, let's say, so something I was doing was I was doing tier 8 solo maps. And the price of a tier 8 is 58,000. The price of a tier 5 is 47. So 10,000 more. I can get this tier 8 solo dungeon map. I can go to a black zone, pop this thing, get into a dungeon for free. You know, I don't have to do any searching basically. It just pops up on my screen for me. And I can go in there, and the enemies are more difficult, so the bosses get extremely hard to kill. But the amount of loot is absolutely insane. I'm talking, it wouldn't be an issue to get 1 mil in one dungeon using one of these maps, one of the tier 8 solo dungeon maps. In my experience, tier 6 worth your time and money. Only 30,000 for a tier 6 map. Tier 7, 45,000, worth your money. It's very similar to tier 8s. Not as difficult, not as high loot, but you can still get some pretty sick loot. I'm talking a tier 8 items loot that you can take on back and sell for 200,000-300,000 silver, if not more, sometimes a little bit less. And then tier 8, I wouldn't mess around with tier 4 at all. 20,000, you might not even get 20,000 in a tier 4 map, in a tier 4 dungeon. Tier 5, it's expensive for a reason, but I'm not really sure, because every time I use a tier 5 map, I might barely break even. I have no idea. They're also enchanted, so as you imagine, with each enchantment, some things happen. So it went from 16% stronger enemies and rewards to 36% stronger. So yeah, it makes the game more challenging. To me, it makes it a little bit more fun because you get these more difficult enemies, but you also get a higher chance of fantastic rewards, loot, and silver. Highly recommended. I mean, the fame you get also increases, I believe. So dude, I highly recommend looking into this if you can afford it and you want to give it a shot. I know some of you are going to want to play Batman. You're gonna want to play Superman. And I think you should. And what I'm trying to say here is that you want to get into capes. Capes are a massive. Massive is very cliche. It's a very big part of the game. Capes are, and what I mean by that is capes will give you extra benefits that you wouldn't think you had in the game. So normally, a cape, you're probably familiar with these normal max energy regen capes that you get early on in the game. Sure. What you might not know is that there's city-based capes and a couple of faction-based capes as well that you can pick up at tier 4. What these capes do is that they have some kind of condition trigger that allows another effect to happen every so often. So the Thetford cape, which is one of my personal favorite capes of all time, when I do a normal attack, I release a chain lightning dealing 170 magic damage to up to 4 enemies with a 15-second cooldown. So every 15 seconds, this will pop off. This will increase your clear speed in solo dungeons immensely. All right, it is a huge thing to have. I recommend using this in your dungeon clearing as well. But they are a little expensive. I'll get into that in a second with the marketplace. I want to give you a couple of other examples. The Fort Sterling cape I think is really good for escaping. Automatically activates when you get stunned, silenced, or rooted. The effect: remove any movement impairing debuff effect from you. So basically, if someone hits you with a stun, this will pop every 2 minutes and we'll get rid of the stun. I know 2 minutes is a very long cooldown, but some builds only have 1 stun or 1 root, and this allows you to escape from that and maybe run away or even counter attack at that point. It starts to fall off because there are some builds that have multiple roots or multiple stuns. So you have to look out for that, but is another possibility. Another good one, I believe, is the demon cape as well. So the demon cape I've seen for ganking and PvP and stuff like that, or even in PvE as well. So when you attack somebody with a normal attack, it drops a lava area below that player or enemy that deals 111 magic damage against players and 54 magic damage against creatures. And I'm not sure how long it lasts actually, but it does. If they're standing in that lava, it does a ton of damage. That's another one you can look at. And I highly recommend you look at these before you decide on which one you want to pick up. The keeper cape I know is something that you can look at for PvP, because when your health drops below 70%, your damage increases by 50% for 6 seconds. It's not bad. It's still pretty good. A tip I can give you on these though is when you go to the marketplace. I'll give you the Thetford cape as an example. So I recommend only getting tier 4, maybe tier 4.1, because it's not much more expensive. But tier 4 cape gives you 170 magic damage. Tier 4.1 gives you 186. And then let's say we go to tier 6. Tier 6 is 300,000 silver for 203 magic damage. So it's a 30 damage increase, or it's a from tier 5 from tier 4.1, or even yeah. So a tier 4.1 is 95,000. Of course, this fluctuates, but it's about 95,000 here, and there's 18 of them for sale. It does 186 magic damage up to 4 enemies. If I were to go to tier 5 here, 0. It does 186 magic damage to 4 enemies for 145,000 silver, or even tier 6 for 314 is 203. So it's like a 20 damage increase for 200,000 extra silver. Not worth. I don't think it's worth it for me. Maybe it is to you. I don't recommend doing it. Stick to tier 4 capes for the meantime, and then once you start getting big Jeff Bezos money, you can decide with okay, this is going to be a very quick one for I believe number 9 on these tips. This one I have stressed in different other videos, but I want to bring it in this video as well because it's a very important newbie tip, something I wish I would have known at the very beginning of the game. Train with a single weapon. Not a single weapon type, a single weapon, until you get to somewhere you want to be. And what I mean by that is in the beginning I chose swords. So what I recommend doing is get everything to tier 4, which I've talked to in the past, and choose which weapon you like the most. I didn't even do maces, hilariously enough. And then once you get every single weapon to tier 4, I didn't do the stabs really because I didn't really care for magic in this game. But you might. So get everything to tier 4, and then do some solo dungeons. Maybe do the arena once or twice and see how they feel in your hands, and then be like, okay. So for me, I was like, okay, swords. Why do I like swords? You can do PvP with them, and you can do PvE with them. They're one of those mixed weapons. Depending on which sword you use has a different purpose in the game, and a lot of weapons are like that. But just talking about swords, and then I was like, okay, so that nails it down to swords. Now I have a choice. Do I go artifact weapons, which is your carving sword, clarion blade, galantine pears, and am I missing one? Yeah, I don't think so. But the only issue with artifacts, so anything that's artifact takes so much longer to level up than your normal weapons on this end, because I'm only at 14. I've been using the clarion blade for a while now, so that's up to you on that one. What I really recommend you doing is picking a non-artifact weapon you can make kind of your main in there, and then also get your artifact swords up secondary to that as well. So I actually chose broadswords as my main sword. Oh, no, okay. I don't want to use my learning points on that. Whatever. I chose my broadsword as my number. I'm at 70 here. So the importance of getting these up to 7 till 100 is that you get these passive bonuses, plus 14 bonus to item power for all swords, and 140 specialization bonus to item power for broadswords. So this increases your item power. Well, pretty much the item power will increase your damage once your overall item power will influence how much damage a weapon does, basically. So you pretty much want to get all these to 100, But early on, this takes forever, really, especially when you have no silver to really spend on this. So, you know, first pick a weapon class and then pick a weapon within that weapon class and make it your main, at least in the beginning. And then you can change it later on when you have enough silver to do it more quickly, or if you want a secondary weapon. So like I'm about to start getting up daggers, because daggers are just fucking fantastic for PvP ganking and dungeon diving, just because it's what you use them for. So I'll be getting these up on the side, but my plan is to use money and silver and these fame credits for getting my broadsword up to 100, which fame credits are something that's kind of like overflow. You can use them in other parts of your little skill tree here that will increase your fame in that one skill tree. I'm not explaining that very well, but if y'all want me to go more detailed into it, I can. But yeah, so again, recommend just picking one weapon, sticking to it, be cool. Bleh. Yes, the very last thing, or item number 10 on this: buying an island. Should you do it? Shouldn't you do it? Well, no, you should not buy an island because it doesn't benefit you in the early game. Of course, look, you can buy an island. I'm not saying you don't have to listen to me. Buy an island and it's just gonna sit there, a lot like mine did for a while. I'm maybe gonna visit mine. I believe it's 50k to do it. And not only that, once you buy an island in a city, you cannot move that island unless you delete that item delete the island completely, and then move it completely. So you really want to make sure whatever city you build this in, you absolutely want to build it there. Or if you're somewhere like I think I'm in Martlock right now, I have to pay to travel to my island. Let's go over to it. Now, islands do have a lot of benefits. You can have laborers, you can have your own crafting stations, you can have your own farming plots, and all of these things will benefit you in making money, but you have to put in a lot of money, a lot of upfront costs for this to start making you money. So I have these couple little farms here, and yes, they bring in some income, but first off, plants, it's like every 24 hours you can harvest the plants, and you can sell them for a profit. And they are renewable, so don't get me wrong, it's a good way to make money, but it's slow and it's not worth the upfront cost, because you have to buy these farm plots, you have to build the farm plot. I don't have to buy the farm plots, you have to I think, I don't know, you might have to actually build it or buy it, but you can place a farm here. Yeah, so you have the construction materials of rough logs and rough stone, and they cost 50. So this part isn't expensive. What's expensive is that you have to buy the island, which is like 50,000 for like almost nothing. I think you might get one farm plot. Then you spend like 100-something thousand to get a second farm plot, and then you spend like 400,000 to get a third, and so on and so forth. And then in order to start making real money like this, you want to start getting up your farming to really high levels. It takes a very long time to do that. So if you have the extra silver, sure, buy you an island. I'm not stopping you, and if you really want one, go ahead. But it's not really worth your time. Well, something that is nice is that you can get these crafting stations up on your own, and these have no fees. There's no silver fees. Like if you were to do this in your own in a city, there's like a usage fee. But you have to keep these things fed or they don't work properly. I don't really understand how that part works, to be honest with you. Also, when you build these, it's tier 1, so you can only build these tier 2 items. Then it's tier 3, so you can build the tier 3 items. Then it's tier 4, and you can build the tier, it's tier 2, you can build these at tier 3, you can build the tier 4 weapons, so on and so forth. And every tier is more construction materials, and the construction materials get even more expensive. It's really, I don't want to not stress this enough that it's not really worth your time early on in the game. From my understanding, people have told me in my chat that it's, anywhere up from like about 30 million silver to really get an island to make some good actual money for you. However, if you have the money and you want to start leveling up your farming, sure, buy the one plot every day. Make sure you go and farm. You farm your carrots or something, because carrots are huge money makers apparently. Or the next best farming, which is right here. I'm on potatoes, so we're trying to get to corn, corn, and then Finally, pumpkins. Okay, so that's it, guys. That is it for the 10 tips I wish I knew when I first started playing Albion Online. I hope these were helpful. If y'all want to see more of this, show me the support on this video. Show me the likes, the views, the comments saying how great my hair looks, how sexy my jawline is. Whatever you need to do to get the point across that you want to see more, do it. I stream every Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time over on my Twitch channel. I have a Twitter. Follow that for more details about when I go live or any other updates on me. And guys, really enjoy the day. Live every day like it's your last.